Hey guys, Laylee here from layleeshome.com, and in this video I want to show you how I make spinach patties in lemon, cilantro, and garlic sauce. I am so excited to share this recipe with you because hands down this is my favorite vegetarian dish, and probably one of the main reasons that I grow greens like chard and stuff like that in my garden. The great thing about this dish is that you can use this same recipe with all different kind of leaves. You can use it with beet tops. If you grow beets and you have some tops, or if you buy beets with the tops at the grocery store, you can use the tops to make these patties. You can use it with spinach, with chard, maybe mustard greens even. I have a friend that makes it with the leaves of the horseradish plant, which is interesting and I never tried before. Today here I am going to use my homegrown chard that I had in the garden from spring until November pretty much. During the season I just pick the leaves and I wilt them, I steam them and wilt them and store them in Ziploc sandwich bags, about 2 to 3 cups in a bag, and I freeze them. I have a video on how I do that, which I will link to, and that's how I preserve my greens. And then during the winter and all the way until next April or May, when we have new fresh leaves in the garden, I use these frozen homegrown greens to make this dish. So I will link to this recipe on the blog. I'll also put the recipe below the video. And if you want to head over to the blog, then there's the whole step-by-step picture tutorial there. Let's get started. What I'm going to do is put these leaves, I just wilted them, just steamed them and let them wilt, and then put them in the freezer. So I took the bag out and I let them thaw, and then before I put them in the food processor, I squeeze them from all of the liquid. I want them to be as dry, not exactly dry, but as dry as possible. The less liquid is the better. Is better because we want to make some sort of mixture here that we can make patties from, and when we fry those patties, it's not going to just break apart. And I think that's probably the hardest part with this dish. Once you figure out the consistency of the mixture, the rest is pretty easy. So I'm just gonna pulse this a few times and let the processor process the leaves. All right, I think this is enough. Yep, that's great. That's all that we need the food processor for. I will put the leaves back in the mixing bowl. All right, and now we're gonna add the rest of the ingredients. So we're gonna do 2 eggs. We'll add them. And I have about 4 or 5 ounces of my homemade feta cheese, which I'll also put a recipe, I'll link to the recipe below the video. I'm gonna add that and just break it into the leaves here. Okay, then I'm gonna put about half a cup or so of matzo meal, And I like to make that with matzo meal because it just adds a little bit more flavor. I actually brought this from Israel, but I think we can find matzo meal here in the US. If you can't find it, then just regular flour is good too. It doesn't have to be matzo meal. I just think that it gives it a little unique taste. And then the last thing is some salt and black pepper. And again, all the measurements will be linked below. I did add feta cheese, so and it's salty, obviously, so I'm not going to add too much salt here, and we're also going to salt the sauce, so not too much salt here. So this is how it looks right now, and I'm just going to give it a good mix. And then the next thing that we're going to do is make patties and fry them. Okay, so I put some oil in my pan, just a little bit to cover the bottom of the pan, and then a little more. Before I start frying it, I just want you to see the consistency of the mixture. If you feel like it's too runny, then you can just add more matzo meal or flour. We want it pretty thick, so when I pick some, it kind of holds its shape. So I'm just gonna start frying it. To check if my oil is hot enough, I'm putting a wooden toothpick in the oil, and if bubbles form around the toothpick, then I know that it is ready. And you can make, I usually don't make them too big, so I just use 2 spoons and lower the patty into the oil. And we're just gonna fry them for a couple of minutes on each side, and then put them on the cooling rack. Patties after I fried them. Now you can totally stop here and make yourself a sandwich on some good bread with mayo and a delicious slice of tomato and these patties inside, and it's divine. It's really, really good. You can also take them at this stage and freeze them, and then when you bring them out again and thaw them, heat them in the oven to kind of bring them back to life. But I really like to take it one step further and make a delicious cilantro, garlic, and lemon sauce. So even if you're not filming a video, still prepare everything ahead of time like this, because once we start, it's gonna go really quick. So I have about 2 cups of cilantro leaves, and I cleaned them from the stems, and I'm just gonna give them a rough chop to kind of make sure they're easier to handle in the pot. The garlic, I use about 7 or 8 garlic cloves, fresh garlic cloves, and they gotta be minced. And then the lemon, also fresh lemon juice, we're gonna squeeze it right into the pot, about 2 lemons. It's gonna be garlicky and lemony and delicious. Also 1.5 cups of chicken stock or broth, or if you want to do vegetable, then vegetable stock. Okay, so I cleaned my pot because I really like this one. So a shallow pot and a white pot, non-stick with heavy bottom is like, I think, the best for this. We're starting by heating a couple of tablespoons of olive oil. Just give it a moment. The pan is pretty hot, so it's probably going to happen quickly. And then I'm going to add the minced garlic. Now I don't want to burn the garlic. I'm just going to cook it for a couple of minutes. Constantly stirring. I lowered the heat just a little bit. Again, I don't want to burn it. Just when it starts to get a tiny bit brown, I'm going to add the chicken stock. And the cilantro leaves. Mix them in. And then the lemon. It's a lot of lemon. If you don't like things too lemony and sour, then maybe do 1 lemon instead of 2. I really like lemon, so I always go for 2. Okay, I'm going to stir this and give it a minute to heat up. I'm also going to add a little bit of salt and a little bit of black pepper, maybe half a teaspoon or so. And that's it. We'll bring it to a boil, and then we're gonna add the patties. It took a little bit longer than 10 minutes, maybe 15 minutes or so, for it to reach kind of like a thicker and reduced state. While the patties were cooking in the sauce, I went ahead and made about a cup of rice or so. And let me show you how I serve this. Again, you can eat this with a really good bread and put the patties on top of the bread and dunk the bread in the sauce. That's really good too. But I usually serve it with rice, and then I'll take a patty or 2 or 3 or 5. This is so good, you guys. Put it on top of the rice and then some of the sauce right on top of the rice. And that's it. We just eat the patties with the rice. Just like that. It's seriously delicious. It's very lemony and garlicky and seriously delicious. Remember that you can do this with any leaves that you have in the garden. Not lettuce and stuff like that, but spinach and chard and beet tops. And you can even mix them up. You can also replace the feta with goat cheese. You can play with it around a little bit. Again, I will link the recipe below. That's it. Please subscribe to the video, to my channel, so you can watch more videos. And I will see you again in the next video. Bye.